Okay, welcome everybody. This is Julia Kelly coming with yet another warning dream. And this dream has to do with a bioweapon that is coming that will affect the glia cells. So I received this dream on July 27th of 2026. And this is what I wrote down. People are dropping like flies, getting really sick, making a lot of people diabetic and hospitalized, causing the hospital system to be in crisis. They are unable to handle the crush of patients all at once. And then the scene flips, and I'm looking at research studies, and in the research study, it explains how the glia cells are being targeted by this bioweapon. Now I'm hearing it, I'm not seeing it, but I'll get back to the glia cell in a minute. The protective action was to stop the insulin from running hot or revving hot by shifting into a low carb diet, keto, Atkins, carnivore, anti-inflammatory diet, that kind of thing, which the prophets have already been warning us for probably 1 or 2 years now to start eating low carb, to implement fasting. There's so many prophets that have been warning about this. So this is actually not new. The key in this is the glia cells is going to be the target. And from what I'm getting with this dream, this is basically a red alert, smarten up, and plumb line with God's instructions. Because if the prophets are instructing people to do a specific task, even though it's not scriptural, but it is biblical precedent, then we need to listen to the prophets, and so shall you prosper. So back to the dream. I end up hospitalized for something really minor as a way to infiltrate the hospital. And I end up warning my nurse, who happened to be an old coworker, whose name means messenger of God. And the last name was a habitational name derived from a lost place name or a shallow place in a river or stream where someone can cross over. So in real life, this person is the top dog of a nursing home. And so that person is a messenger who is at the top of a nursing home. So again, think spiritual parallels here. I believe this is a literal warning, but also pay attention to spiritual parallels here. And then I end up sharing the low carb strategy with her by me infiltrating this hospital. And then the dream ends. So I wake up, I'm trying to figure out what on earth is a glia cell. Thanks to Google and their audio thing, I found out that it is a GLIA cell, which is a brain cell. And this is what AI says. Glia cells are non-neuronal support cells in the central and peripheral nervous systems. Key types include astrocytes, oligodendrocytes, and microglia. They do not transmit electrical impulses like neurons, but they protect, insulate, and nourish nerve tissue. So look at this practically and how that impacts the brain, but also look at this spiritually. Who in the brain system of the church, of the body of Christ, are going to be impacted, if you think about it this way, because they are not functioning, they are not protecting, they are not insulating, and they are not nourishing the nerve tissue. So pay attention to that nugget there. So the biological roles of glial cells. So astrocytes are star-shaped cells that provide nutrients, maintain chemical balances, and help form the blood-brain barrier. Oligodendrocytes create the fatty myelin insulation around axons in the central nervous system to speed up signals. Schwann cells produce myelin insulation for neurons in the peripheral nervous system. Microglia act as the immune defense by clearing out cellular waste and fighting foreign invaders. Epididymal cells line the fluid-filled ventricles in the brain to help produce and circulate the cerebral spinal fluid. Now, overlay all of those physical functions with the spiritual and ministerial functions within the church. That's going to be a clue right there. So health implications and clinical significance when these glia cells are impacted. The brain tumors. Because the glia retain the ability to divide, unlike mature neurons, they are the origin of the most primary brain tumors, such as gliomas and glioblastomas. Multiple sclerosis. Damage or loss of the myelin sheath produced by oligodendrocytes leads to slower or blocked nerve conduction. Neurodegenerative disease. Malfunctions in astrocytes and chronic activation in microglia are heavily implicated in disorders like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. Now, this dream was highlighting a bioweapon virus or bacteria is coming that is going to impact the glia cells, and the protective action is to shift into a low carb diet. Somehow there is going to be a interaction between the virus and the insulin that is revving hot. So it's going to be 1 + 2 = a toxin or something that is going to harm the glia cells in the brain. And so if we know this, we can get ahead of the game and not end up as one of the casualties of this coming bioweapon. Now, cross-reference my dream with multiple other prophets, one of them being Charlie Shamp, that said that there would be coming some kind of warfare that would result in people acting like zombies. Their brains would be messed up and there would be no cure except for the power of God. They would be coming to believing churches desperate for deliverance and healing. Now, the thing that leapt out at me with all of this is that as much as the enemy is trying to bring in this bioweapon to cause all of this harm, this is actually going to create an opportunity for God to show up and show off his glory. Now, think about the warning I just released before, that darkness and despair would be from February to June 2027, and then the glory. Now, when this comes and there is no cure except for the power and the glory of God, these two things may be connecting with the timing. It may not, but it may, considering the timing of how I got all of these different warnings. So the other thing that leapt out was the key word connecting all these dots was that the glia cells nourish the brain cells. When the brain cells lose their food, their sustenance, they start to malfunction because they're not getting enough food. Spiritually speaking, if the body is getting high sugar and all they're being fed is a spiritual milk, and they are never weaned off the milk and brought to strong meat, then we're going to end up having some spiritual diabetics, and we are going to have some spiritual calamities and spiritual zombies manifesting. So I'm seeing this on both sides, that both are going to happen, not just one or the other. It's physical and it's going to be spiritual that's going to be happening. So destroy the delicate balance through a virus and the brain cells starve or get too toxic and result in the zombie mode. So I looked up the definition of zombie because it's like, really, God? Like, we're going to have a bunch of zombies walking around? I'm thinking like some of those crazy movies that I've only ever seen the ads for because I don't watch that stuff. But it's like, it doesn't quite fit with what I'm seeing here. Well, the definition actually brought a lot of light to this, and it made a lot of sense. A zombie is an animated corpse brought back to life, a person controlled by magic or virus, or an exhausted, unresponsive individual. Now think about long COVID. and the sudden discovery of childhood Alzheimer's since COVID, and how many people have burnout because their brains are not able to keep up with the sheer amount of responsibility and load in an exhausted state that is leading to all of this burnout. So what we saw at the beginning of COVID, and subsequently everything that has come out of it since, we already know from a lot of the data that's been coming out that COVID was very much the tester. It was the warning. They were testing to see how compliant people would be. They were tweaking their ability to try to control the world and bring things out. This warning is highlighting that we're going to be having a take two. And we already know prophetically from so many prophets that the next virus that's coming, there will be no cure. And mine ends up lining up with this as well. And there was just a little blip on YouTube that AI has now created, I think it was 16 new viruses when they gave it some DNA and let it play around. And instead of doing something positive, it ended up creating a bunch of viruses. Hooray. So this dream is not quite that far-fetched. So where is the hope? One, shift your families into low carb diets. Really start changing your lifestyle. Some little things that leapt out for our specific family, which I'll share because they may be relevant to you guys as well. I had a weird instruction to move my rosemary from the front garden, which is just out in the open, into my greenhouse. And rosemary apparently is neuroprotective. And it has cardiovascular healing properties. It's anti-viral, anti-parasitic. It's quite a powerhouse herb, apparently. And it was known as a medicine in the olden days, where you would take a teaspoon of rosemary and steep it in hot water, and you would take no more than 250 cups per day. So it can get toxic if you take too much. So that was interesting because I've had this cute little plant and I didn't know that it was medicinal. And the other instruction was to take the straggling Swiss chard that I had out in front more as a decorative thing, because we don't really like the taste of Swiss chard, but it looked cute, so we kept it out front. We had instruction to put that in the greenhouse. So I'm researching, okay, why does Swiss chard need to be in the greenhouse? Why are we going to need that in wintertime? And come to find out, Swiss chard is extremely high in potassium. Well, I recently found out by helping somebody else and learning about potassium wasting and all of that stuff, that if your blood level potassium drops too low because you're not consuming enough dietary potassium, and this is at a level that you're not going to pick it up on a blood test yet. Blood test, they see the severe chronic level. What I'm talking about is like what they call the subclinical deficiencies. And when, especially for a woman, when your potassium gets too low, it's going to pull fluid into the intracellular layers and levels of your body, which will then trigger off your insulin to spike. So even without sugar in your body, if your potassium is too low, your insulin will drive high. Also, your cortisol will also go high. So now you're having an inflammatory response in your body, which is going to make you more toxic. It is going to just overall make your body work that much harder, and it's in that constant state of fight, flight, and all of the consequences of that, which then lead to burnout. So by making sure that you're consuming enough dark leafy greens for your potassium, you can also you can look it up yourself. I'm not going to get into all of that, but making sure that you have adequate not too much, but adequate potassium in your diet. And when you're under stress, the amount of potassium that you need is going to increase. And so making sure that you have access to those types of vegetables, avocados, coconut oil, broccoli are been the ones that we've been looking at just because they're lower carb, but there's tons of other ones. Potatoes with the skins on, squash are some other ones that are higher carb. So those two things we were instructed to do. And what was the other one? Okay, it's not coming to mind right now. So moving on. So intercessor's prayer strategy. 1, shutting down this bioweapon in the heavenlies. Because even looking back with the how do we shut down the Assyrians, it is going to be Isaiah 30 verse 31. For through the voice of the Lord shall the Assyrians be beaten down, which smote with a rod. So shutting down this bioweapon in the heavenly realm is going to be part of the intercessor's assignment. Also praying for protection over people's glia cells, and then just giving them wisdom and strategies on how to walk out these dietary changes in their lives. Now, another nugget, I remember what it was now. Another nugget that the Lord was highlighting was in, I think it's 2 Kings verse 1, it was after Ahab. And it was about the god of Ekron, and how Elijah was calling down fire upon the military platoons coming to try to arrest him. And let's see here. Yes, so it's 2 Kings chapter 1, so that you guys can look it up on your own. And here it was Israel's new king Ahaziah. And instead of going to God first, he ended up going to the temple of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron, to ask whether he would recover. So he ended up going to sorcery and witchcraft instead of going to God as the great physician. So, which also ties in with all of this. And then because he chose their demonic medical system, he ended up being cursed with never being cured. And he ended up dying with his condition. The messengers end up trying to come for Elijah to arrest him. And the first 50 end up turning to crispy critters. The second 50, Elijah turns them into crispy critters again. And then the third time, the leader is telling them, like, please have mercy on me, because like I'm in charge of all these men. Please have mercy. Don't kill them. But can you please come? So instead of coming with an attitude of brazen arrogance to the man of God, that the third guy came with humility and with a request, recognizing who has the true authority here, man's military or the man of God, who is able to command fire from heaven down and to destroy. So when I started digging into it, Ekron means exterminator. And so when King Ahaziah, who had a medical issue, went to the god of extermination looking for help, he got none. So there's a parallel here. And prophetically, we're told there will be no cure for this coming virus. And then God showed up and showed off and proved he is a better exterminator than the other ones. So the demon god of Ekron versus the Most High God of Yahweh, and that showdown, it's going to backfire. Now, connecting in with this this thing of why would it be going after the insulin? Why would it be going after high carb diets? One, we notice a pattern in the Bible that whenever there's a judgment that comes, it is going to come because there is an idol in people's lives. So like, for example, with Egypt, with the 10 plagues, each one of those plagues was addressing an idol in the nation. Now, what idol could be behind high insulin, high carb diet? Gluttony, that's going to be one of them. And especially North America has massive gluttony issues. Very much not a fasting type of culture that when I did my first 40-day water fast, and second, and I think third, before I finally found someone who actually knew how to fast, I could not find any pastor, any church leader who had ever done a 40-day water fast. Everyone thought I was nuts. My doctor said that I would die if I did it. My naturopath was the first person that had heard of it, but not for spiritual reasons. It was because somebody had cancer and was somewhat forced into a fast, but it ended up actually curing their cancer. So she didn't have much positive help there. But if you think about, God wants to correct idolatry and confront it, because a lot of times, if that's just your normal culture, if that's what everyone has grown up with, then well, we're not praying to a statue that's in front of us, so it's not idolatry. But anything that you put ahead of God becomes an idol. And so this whole virus and everything that's going to be coming, I believe it's very much connected with the idol of gluttony that is coming. Now, where is the positive that's going to come out of all of this? I was reminded of the prophetic promise that there would be a discovery of a cure for Alzheimer's and cancer, making chemo look as torturous as the Dark Ages versions of bloodletting. And I can't remember who released that. So many different people have released the same thing, so I can't remember who was which one that released it. But we know that there's coming a cure. So out of this spanking is going to come eventually a cure, because Alzheimer's is connected with glia cells. Brain cancer is connected with glia cells. And we know so many people that ended up with brain cancer, ended up with diabetes, like really weird, like instant turbo diabetes after they got the COVID shots. And so there is going to be coming a cure for those two things. And somehow it's going to connect in with the research that is going to be coming out with this glia cell bioweapon. So that is a nugget of hope in the midst of all of this. So from what I was getting in the dream and then in my journaling afterwards, we are not going to be able to pray this away. We're going to have to go through it. But by obeying the instruction to shift to low carb, to stop the insulin from revving hot, that there would be a measure of protection. Because just like with baking soda and vinegar, if you keep them separate, there is not going to be a combustion. You schmuck them together, and if it's anything like my water bottle, the lid is going to explode off. So change your diets, pay attention to your potassium levels. That's what I'm getting, especially for our family. And learn how to fast. Learn how to be detoxing your bodies, and recognizing that our bodies are the temple of the Holy Spirit, and we want to honor God with clean, healthy bodies. So that is all I've got on this one. And my 3 warning videos that I had up to this point are done. So we shall see if God gives me another one. And if not, I will see you guys whenever I do get something to post another video for. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.